Power Hour with John Lee.
With the OJ, the Juice, Mr. Simpson. OJ Simpson played for the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers. So he was a tremendously talented athlete. And he had quite a troubled youth, apparently, did OJ Simpson. But, he was a talented man. And, he's Hall of Fame. He's everything. Everything you can win is won. He holds the record for everything that you can have. Again, I don't follow the sport. We're looking at Aaron Hernandez before. And I don't follow the sport to tell you in descriptive ways how good he was. But I've looked at his record and it's impressive. And he was the most valuable player in the NFL, for example. That's something you win, not just a price they put on you. He was the MVP based on his performances. So he's top class player. And that's why from that, he parlayed that into a film career. And he's been in a surprising amount of films. And in fact, he started his own production company called Orenthal. That's his name, Orenthal. Orenthal Productions. And so he's famous, and he was really good in the Naked Gun films. He didn't have to do a lot, but what he did really well. And Naked Gun's hilarious, man. Classic comedy. And so during all this, he marries a white girl. She marries a black man. So there was some kind of press interest involved in that, I suppose. But really, who gives a fuck? And she was called Nicole Brown Simpson. Okay. And she's a very attractive lady, statuesque. And, they were married, but she kept her own name as well, Brown Simpson. And so, apparently, it seems quite clear, OJ was beating her up. He's a bully. Fucking bully. And he kept hitting his wife, and he hospitalised her a few times. He had restraining orders out against him. Photos of her black and blue where he's beat her. And of course, so in the end, they split up. Right, difficult thing, but they split up. And she starts seeing a guy called Ron Goldman, who's a martial arts expert, and might well have kicked OJ's fucking cowardly ass up and down the street a few times. And then they get found dead at the house where they live, or where she lives, and he's there, and he's the boyfriend, this Ron Goldman, who's apparently a smashing guy as well. And they're found brutally murdered. Knife crime, really bad. Ron Goldman, like I say, he was a martial arts expert. I don't know if he had any street fight in him, but he certainly tried to survive and didn't. He got stabbed and killed, and he gets lost in all this because he wasn't famous. But he was a really nice man, and he was trying to protect his girlfriend, and he got killed. And she got killed, and she was off the rails, man. She was taking a lot of cocaine, but that in no way justifies doing what he did. But I'm just saying, maybe if he was an intensely possessive guy, one of those, and she's out, with this boyfriend, and she's taking cocaine, it's party time, and forgetting all about him, maybe that was too much for him if he's a control freak. I don't know. But the investigation into the crime was absolutely diabolical. You can see it for yourself, man. If you've ever seen a crime drama, they're fucking walking through the blood. All these investigators and coroners are walking through the blood. They're smoking, leaning on everything, just corrupting the crime scene to fuck. Then they're going investigating his car. The same people who've been getting covered in blood and God knows what at the house are then jumping in the car and getting blood all over that as well. So, the investigation was fucking awful. And so, just to go to court with that. And one of the cops was a known racist. He's on record as being a terrible racist. And there have been serious incidents surrounding his racism. And so, to bring all that to court is a bit dodgy anyway, to say the least. But I just want to mention the escape, man. I remember seeing that on television because it's a Bronco. I don't know what rate that is, but I know the brand is a Bronco. And I remember seeing it on television from the helicopter view where he's driving and he doesn't seem to be going very fast. But he seems like, I don't know, he's just upset. He's kind of driving away and he's being chased and he's being pursued more than he's being chased. And I mean, that's an iconic image, and you think, what's going on in this guy's mind? Does he think he can get away? What's he trying to get away from? And that makes you look very guilty. And so by the time he got to the court, to the trial, everyone thought he was guilty. A lot of people thought he was guilty. And when he arrived with his dream team, he had a dream team of lawyers. Johnny Cochran was one of them. Starr was another. And that made him look more guilty to a lot of people. And of course, the trial was televised. I think it may be the biggest trial in history in terms of television views and profile and message and media attention and whatnot. And there's the famous thing with the glove. There's even a Netflix miniseries now. Not very good in my opinion, but it's comical trial. And eventually he gets found not guilty. And this caused an uproar. I'll come back to that. And then after that, they had a civil case. So the family of the families of the victims, which I'll repeat that, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Ron Goldman also got murdered. And his family were also bereaved. And so they took him to civil court, to civil trial, and they won. So he was found guilty in the second court. And then that's a question of money. I don't know how much they ever saw, but at least they got the guilty verdict. Now, I come to the point of what's the big thing about this. Yes, the murders, definitely. Yes, the fall from grace. Yes, the rupture of the American dream again. But more than that, it's the divide along racial lines that strikes me, because speaking in broad terms, white people were devastated when he got found not guilty, and black people were happy. Now, I'm sure that's not representative of everybody, but when we see the scenes, the verdict comes out, and outside the court and around the court, see black people really emotional because he won in a sense, and white people really emotional for the same reasons but in different ways. And so that's a strange phenomenon, especially for black women, because maybe he didn't do it. He got found guilty in the first one, innocent in the first one, guilty in the second. So on the day when he gets found innocent, you think he's innocent and you're happy, because he's black. Well, all right, maybe you're sick of fucking absence of justice for black people and you think it's about time. All right. But, I mean, he did murder a woman. If he did it, he murdered a woman. I mean, I would imagine there's some conflict in there. But it really did expose, anyway, the race divide in America and how people gravitated towards their own race in this dynamic, because the wife was white. So white people wanted justice for the white woman, and OJ was black, and black people wanted justice for the black man, instead of people wanting justice for everyone involved. And so that's the most striking thing to me, and hopefully we've moved on from that. Although OJ couldn't stop getting in trouble, and went back to prison several years later. Bouncing back in time and round to my hometown, Manchester, for the Munich air disaster, which happened in 1958. 1958, this one happened. Long time ago, but it still resonates. And what happened was 23 people died in a very sad accident. And it happened in Munich, and it happened on a plane. And 23 people died. There were 21 survivors, and there were 19 people injured. And why is that important? Well, because the people who were on that plane, some of the people were members of the Busby Babes football team, the Manchester United football team that were known as the Busby Babes, and they had just won the football match, and they were going to the semi-final. They beat Belgrade, and they were going into the semi-final of the early version of the Champions League, and they were all young kids, and they won the last 3 Premier Leagues, the football league, what we call the Premier League now. They'd won the last 3. These are only kids, remember, and they're in the semi-finals of what we call the Champions League now. So they're famous, and they're very, very, very good. and they stop on the way back to England. They stop in Germany, in Munich, and there's fucking ice on the wings, and so they're trying to take off, and they can't because the engine's too cold and all that. So they're trying and they can't. They're trying and they can't, and then they try again, and they set off, and the whole thing just goes tits up. They go through the fucking fence, crash, and it's a really, really bad disaster. Now, one of the reasons it's such a bad disaster is because of Duncan Edwards. So Duncan Edwards was basically the Messi of his day. He didn't have the career that Messi had because he got killed when he was very young. But he was generally considered to be the best football player in the world. And Bobby Charlton was on the same team as him, who went on to win the World Cup, went on to win, I don't know how many trophies he won, Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues, and is Bobby Charlton. And he played with great players, Bobby Charlton, over the years. And he said the best player he's ever seen is Duncan Edwards, and that Duncan Edwards was better than Bobby Charlton. And he was killed in this plane crash. He actually hung on for a couple of weeks and then died. And so that was a tragic thing. And then, 8 players, if you imagine that, like the Barcelona team of 10 years ago or whatever, and there's a plane crash, and we all wake up to find that 8 of those players are dead. I mean, that is a serious tragedy. That's really, really sad. And so that's what the world woke up to. And Manchester United were devastated. The club was devastated by that. And so Manchester United had to start from scratch. And thankfully, 10 years later, exactly in 1968, the Busby Babes, the second phase of the Busby Babes came through and won the Champions League. They beat Lisbon 4-1. And this is with Bobby Charlton playing in that team, and with George Best, the tragic figure of George Best, who was a great player, and a guy called Dennis Law. And they won the Champions League in 1968 and became the biggest team on earth. And what's great about that is, even if you don't love football, it's that triumph over adversity, where the reason that you see Manchester United now worldwide, global, all over Africa, all over China, anywhere you go, people know Manchester United. That's an organic process. They had a bunch of kids who were really good at football, that trained really hard and played really well, killed, smashed, dead, because some fucking idiot would not stop trying. I mean, I'm not going to call, that's not fair, but somebody would not stop trying to fucking take off in this plane. I really think that once is enough, once is too many, I think, in them situations, but 3 times is far too much, and all these young people died. And to come back from that with 2 of the same players and the same manager, and rebuild from that, and win the Champions League and win so many other things. And it shows you, to me, that's what sport is all about. That's why we love sport so much. And that's why Manchester United is the global phenomenon that it is today, because of that resilience and that ability to come back.